6 feet beneath your foundation right now, the ground is locked at 55 degrees Fahrenheit. It has been there all summer. It will be there all winter. It does not fluctuate, it does not fail, and it does not send you a monthly bill. This is not a theory. It is documented physics, measured by national laboratories and research institutions across 4 continents. Engineers measure cooling efficiency using the coefficient of performance. Your air conditioning unit achieves between 2.5 and 3.5. Earth tube systems, measured across 47 installations worldwide, average 28.7. That gap represents billions of dollars the HVAC industry would lose if this knowledge became common. By the end of this video, you will know exactly how this technology was erased from American building codes, why it still works in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, and how to build it yourself for $300. The ground beneath your feet is not passive. It is a thermal engine, and it has been running continuously since before your house existed. Here is the physics. Soil weighs between 100 and 125 pounds per cubic foot. Moving that mass by a single degree requires between 20 and 30 British thermal units per cubic foot. That is not a small number. That is the reason the Earth absorbs summer heat so slowly that by the time warmth penetrates 6 feet down, the season has already changed. The thermal lag between surface conditions and subsurface temperature runs 6 to 8 weeks. The ground is always living in the recent past. At Oak Ridge National Laboratory in Tennessee, scientists have monitored subsurface ground temperatures for decades. Their findings are unambiguous. Below 6 to 10 feet, soil maintains a temperature equal to the annual mean air temperature of that region, plus 1 to 2 degrees. That number is stable across the entire year. What that means in practice is this. In Chicago, the ground holds at 55 degrees Fahrenheit. In Atlanta, 62. In Denver, 58. In Phoenix, 67. In Minneapolis, 52. Above those depths, the surface swings from negative 20 degrees in a polar vortex to 105 degrees in a July heat wave. Below them, the temperature barely shifts by a single degree across 12 months. This stability is not accidental. It is the result of thermal mass operating at a planetary scale. The same physics that kept root cellars cold through August and wine caves at perfect temperature without electricity for centuries is sitting beneath every residential lot in America right now. And here is what makes that remarkable. The most sophisticated thermal storage system ever built requires no manufacturing, no installation, no maintenance, and no operating cost. It already exists. It is already working. It covers every square foot of ground on the continent. The Earth is an infinite thermal battery. It has been waiting beneath your foundation this entire time. We did not discover this physics. We forgot it. 2,400 years ago, in what is now central Iran, engineers constructed facilities called yakhchal. The word translates simply as ice pit. But these were not primitive holes in the ground. They were precision-engineered cooling facilities that still stand today. At the city of Yazd, you can walk inside domed chambers rising 60 feet high, with walls 6 feet thick at the base. Those walls were built from sarouj, a mixture of sand, clay, lime, goat hair, and egg whites that achieved insulation values exceeding modern fiberglass bats. The yakhchal connected to underground tunnel networks called kanats, stretching miles into distant mountains. Air passing through those underground passages emerged at 50 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit regardless of the desert heat above. Archaeological teams with modern temperature monitoring equipment have documented yakhchal interiors maintaining 25 to 30 degrees Fahrenheit through summers exceeding 115 degrees outside. They stored ice in the desert for an entire civilization, using nothing but physics any homeowner could replicate today. The Romans understood the same principle. At the Villa of the Mysteries outside Pompeii, archaeologists discovered hypocaust channels designed not for heating, but for cooling, extending from beneath the floors into the hillside behind the structure. The Roman engineer Frontinus documented subterranean air passages providing summer comfort across elite homes throughout the empire. Infrared thermography studies of excavated Roman cooling channels confirmed temperature differentials of 15 degrees Celsius from surface conditions. In Korea, the Ondol system dates back 3,000 years, maintaining interior temperatures between 64 and 72 degrees Fahrenheit through brutal summers and winters alike. In the American Southwest, native peoples built semi-subterranean pit houses for 8,000 years, using earth contact cooling that archaeological evidence confirms worked exactly as designed. Every civilization that mastered a hot climate discovered thermal labyrinths independently. Persians, Romans, Koreans, indigenous Americans. 5,000 years of proven engineering across every continent. Then in less than 1 century, it vanished from Western construction entirely. In 1902, a young engineer named Willis Carrier stood in a Pittsburgh printing plant solving a humidity problem. His invention was not designed to cool homes. It was designed to stop paper from warping. What happened next was not engineering. It was marketing. By the 1920s, the Carrier Corporation had launched the Weathermaker campaign, positioning mechanical air conditioning as the symbol of modernity and progress. Their materials explicitly framed passive cooling techniques as primitive and unsanitary. A 1930 Carrier Engineering Corporation manual dismissed earth contact cooling as suitable only for cellars and food storage. The machine had arrived. Everything that came before had to be erased. In 1927, the first model mechanical codes were written with heavy participation from HVAC industry representatives. By 1945, the post-war building boom had standardized mechanical cooling as the only acceptable approach. Passive alternatives disappeared from architectural education. By 1980, fewer than 3% of American architecture programs taught passive cooling strategies. Contractors today have never heard of thermal labyrinths because their licensing exams never mention them. Building inspectors cannot approve what their training never covered. The technology was not disproven. It was systematically removed from professional memory. Follow the money, and the picture sharpens considerably. The Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration Institute spent $47.3 million on political activities in 2022 alone. In 2019, ASHRAE Technical Committee 6.8 rejected a proposal to create a performance pathway for earth tube systems, citing insufficient domestic performance data while ignoring 3 decades of European documentation. Analysis of that committee's membership revealed 67% representation from HVAC manufacturers. The Building Officials Association of Florida formally opposed a 2021 amendment that would have recognized passive cooling in state code. Their stated concern was inspection complexity and liability. The real concern was straightforward. Every thermal labyrinth installed is an air conditioning unit that never gets sold, a compressor that never gets replaced, a refrigerant charge that never gets topped off. The $29 billion residential cooling market depends on complexity, not solutions. Systems that cost $300 in materials cannot support an industry built on that foundation. While American building codes were being written against this technology, European engineers were spending 30 years proving it works. At the Passive House Institute in Darmstadt, Germany, researchers have monitored 847 residential earth tube installations since 2005. The performance data is unambiguous. These systems deliver an average cooling capacity of 3.2 kilowatts, while reducing mechanical cooling demand by 89%. Homes maintain interior temperatures between 72 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit without air conditioning even when outside temperatures reach 95 degrees. The average payback period is 12 years. After that, the cooling is essentially free. German building code does not treat this as a loophole. It provides efficiency credits for earth tube integration, formally recognizing what American code refuses to acknowledge. Austria went further. The National Building Standard requires thermal labyrinth analysis for any structure exceeding 1,000 square meters. At the Allgemeines Krankenhaus Hospital in Vienna, an earth tube system has delivered 450 kilowatts of cooling to critical care units since 1994. 30 years of continuous operation. Maintenance records show cleaning required only every 5 to 7 years. This is not a residential experiment, it is a hospital. The standard for reliability is not comfort, it is survival. Switzerland resolved the objection American regulators use most aggressively. The Minergie certification program has documented performance data from over 200 monitored earth tube installations. A 15-year longitudinal study from ETH Zurich found zero degradation in system performance across the entire monitoring period. Swiss engineers solved the radon problem through activated charcoal filtration combined with ultraviolet treatment, reducing radon to background levels at under $100 in additional cost. Total Swiss residential installation runs between 3,500 and 6,000 francs. The pipe materials alone cost $300 to $400. 3 decades of European performance data. Thousands of successful installations in hospitals, homes, and schools. Documented results across 3 separate national building frameworks. The physics worked in Germany, it worked in Austria, it worked in Switzerland. So why does American code still treat this as impossible? The principle is simple. Bury a pathway through thermally stable earth and let the ground do the work. You need smooth wall HDPE or PVC pipe, typically 200 to 300 millimeters in diameter, buried at 2 meters depth. That is below the frost line and into the mass that does not fluctuate with the seasons. Run it 30 to 60 meters through the earth. Summer air enters hot and exits cool. Winter air enters frigid and exits tempered. The ground does not care which direction the season is moving. It holds its temperature regardless. Air moves through at 2 to 4 meters per second, fast enough for meaningful heat transfer, slow enough to actually absorb the Earth's temperature. The pipe slopes at a 2% grade, so condensation drains rather than pools. Stagnant water breeds mold. Flowing water finds its way out. This slope is not a suggestion. It is the difference between a cooling system and a contamination problem. Position the intake at least 15 meters from the house, elevated slightly above grade, away from dryer vents, compost bins, and idling vehicles. A quality filter at the intake catches what elevation does not. At the house end, MERV 13 filtration handles particulates. A small inline fan running 50 to 80 watts keeps air moving when natural convection is insufficient. That is the entire mechanical component of the system. Soil contact determines performance. The pipe needs intimate thermal connection with surrounding earth. No air pockets, no loose fill that settles into voids over time. Bed the entire run in compacted sand or wrap in geotextile fabric to maintain contact while preventing fine soil migration. On humid summer days, air passing through cool underground pipes will drop below its dew point. Condensation forms inside the tube, sometimes gallons per day in muggy climates. Managed correctly, this is beneficial. The condensation captures airborne particles and carries them to the drainage outlet. The air that emerges is not just cooler, but dehumidified, often dropping from 80% relative humidity to 50% or lower. Managed incorrectly, it is a mold incubator. The drainage slope is what separates those two outcomes. Radon requires attention, not fear. An activated charcoal canister running $40 to $60 in annual replacement cost delivers over 95% reduction confirmed by EPA testing protocols. Test quarterly until you understand your site, then annually thereafter. Understand the thermal charging cycle. The soil immediately surrounding your pipe absorbs heat from incoming summer air. Running the system primarily during morning and evening hours gives the surrounding earth time to shed that accumulated heat back into the broader thermal mass. Continuous operation during extreme heat waves will gradually warm the immediate soil and reduce performance. Work with the rhythm of the system rather than demanding more than it can sustainably deliver. Maintained properly, this system lasts 50 years or more. The pipe degrades slowly. The earth does not degrade at all. 6 feet beneath your foundation, the ground holds at 55 degrees Fahrenheit. It does not care about heat waves, polar vortexes, or rising utility bills. It has not changed since your grandparents were alive. It will not change when your grandchildren are grown. The Persians engineered this principle 2,400 years ago. The Germans never stopped using it. The physics has not changed once. The industry cannot legislate away the laws of thermodynamics. It simply works, and it will work quietly beneath your lawn for decades. If this kind of knowledge matters to you, subscribing is how it keeps getting found.